Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCurry from the Voice of America in Washington, D.C.
Thanks. I'm Vincent McCurry at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
The federal government, under its agency, Great Green Wall, has embarked on the sensitization of some selected schools and communities in Yobe State on the dangers of cutting trees for energy sources. The team, which was in Yobe to commemorate the 2024 Great Green Wall Day with the theme, Fueling a Greener Future, Green Cooking for a Sustainable Government, describes cutting of trees as the major human factor affecting the environment.
Over the years, both federal and state governments have adopted measures to mitigate desertification, especially in the northern parts of the country, but with little results. The Great Green Wall team is adopting yet another strategy as members go around selected schools in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital, to educate students on the dangers of cutting trees and instead encourage tree planting. One of the institutions visited is the Shehu Sule College of Nursing and Midwifery, where they interact with management staff, student nurses and midwives on the importance of trees to the environment.
If you notice, all these states are already affected with desertification, isn't it? Yes. So there is need, and it's not good for our health, and it's not good for our farming, it's not good for our agriculture. So there is need for us to revive our lands, to make them fertile. So that is, and we need the children to know about it now before it gets worse.
The issue of desertification is affecting Yobe State in so many ways. One, our fertile land is turning to degraded land, so that the food production in Yobe State is reducing as a result of desert encroachment.
From there, they pay a courtesy visit to Governor May Malabuni at the government house. After exchanging pleasantries, Governor Buni is honored as a Great Green Wall ambassador. He appeals to his guests to continue the good work in campaigning for aggressive tree planting, especially within developing housing estates.
But I want to also encourage you to put much effort in ensuring that more trees are planted, especially around the new estates that we put. It's very, very important.
The last stop is Kasaisa, a satellite community in the state capital where residents are given a gas cylinder for cooking to discourage felling of trees for charcoal energy. The Great Green Wall is optimistic that some of these measures will stop the encroachment of desertification in the northern parts of the country.
Joining us to discuss the Green Revolution in Yobe State is the project coordinator, Agro-Climatic Resilience in Semi-Arid Landscapes, Yobe State, Shehu Mohammed. Glad to have you on the program today.
Thank you.
Right, so can you share the motivation behind your agency or the urgency to plant more trees as part of the National Great Green Wall Initiative?
Oh, thank you once again. As far as Yobe State government is concerned, we happen to be those states with the largest number of hectares uncovered with shrubs, uncovered with grasses, and uncovered with trees. So therefore, and this is as a result of drought, desertification, and deforestation, the most common 3D devils. So therefore, attention and activities must be actually concentrated towards abating this very serious menace. As far as Yobe State government is concerned, we carry all and sundry along, especially the communities or the frontline people affected by these menaces. One, about the dangers of cutting down trees, deforestation. 2, about the aspect of encouraging them to plant more trees. And then 3, about carrying them along in what we are doing. Currently, the Yobe State government, under the able leadership of Honorable Memala Buni, CON, mandated that at least 3 million seedlings must be raised, and then these 3 million seedlings must be actually distributed across these frontline areas.
And, in all those things that you've listed and in community engagement, what are the particular things that you're doing as an agency to ensure that people know the importance of not cutting trees and the importance of trees to the environment?
During our advocacy visit in actually showcasing or telling people about what is Akrisal, Yobe State is blessed with 17 traditional first-class emirs. And we visited all these palaces, all these, their royal highnesses. We visited them in their palaces. We told them about what we are going to do, especially in terms of land restoration, especially in terms of agricultural activities, especially in terms of livelihood. As I'm talking to you now, as part of encouraging farmers, because the complaint here is always anywhere you go, you say the farmers were left unattended, and the government is not actually giving them the needed support. In order to actually show our commitments towards agriculture and then revitalizing the agriculture and the livelihood, and actually the aspect of food security, the government advised us that we should assist farmers, and we distributed $250,000 to 10 communities, and as a pilot, communities of Nguru local government and Karasua local government, and then communities of Gujuba local government and Damatru local government as a pilot, even though in the whole country, out of the 19 plus FCT, 8 states were actually selected as pilot.
And what are your plans, the expanse of time, the number of years that you estimate that these things will fall into place?
Currently, we venture into physical barricading of all our intervention sites in Kaska, Tulowa, Gamewa, Maimalari, Bolongua, Afunori, Dasua, Indamaturu, Kukariata, Indamaturu, Warsala, Indamaturu, and other places. Initially, we venture into physical fencing of these areas, bearing in mind that the land is very, very porous, and our interventions, most of them are where there are no trees, we plant trees. So anywhere, if animals see something greenish, it's a greener pasture, they will run toward that. So therefore, initially, we are fencing the areas for the protections of man and animals, but we carry the people along in watering the places, in safeguarding the places, and then we pursue what we are doing, the planting. We also engage them to venture into planting some of the things that may actually ease their means of livelihood, like the plantings of moringa in the area, which normally yields in less than a month or two, by planting other vegetables like beans, which yields very, very well, and what have you. So this shows that we are carrying all and sundry along toward the handing over of our activities after 6 years.
Right. We must thank you for your time on the program. The project coordinator, Akrisal Yobe State, Shehu Muhammad. Thank you for your time.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. After the break, advancements in South Africa's nuclear power technology have international investors lining up this year. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. International investors have been lining up for South African nuclear energy technology this year. Two partnerships have been announced aimed at financing the manufacture of a new prototype small-scale reactor developed in South Africa. One partner includes a collective of family farmers whose businesses are suffering from the country's unreliable power grid. Maurice de Klerk reports from South Africa's capital, Pretoria.
South Africa's 17-year-long energy shortage makes farmers spend millions supplementing the unreliable national electricity grid with mainly solar power systems or generators running on imported fuel or go bust.
As soon as the power goes out, the fan shuts down and the chickens won't have more than 15 to 30 minutes. As soon as the electricity comes back again, all your appliances get over or under voltage. So we need to replace it every year.
Despite the dire need, generators and solar systems are too expensive for most South Africans to go completely off-grid. Farmers are hoping nuclear power can help. An interest group made up of regional family farmers called the Southern African Agri-Initiative announced a strategic partnership this March with American investment firm C5 Capital to bring a new kind of small nuclear reactor to rural areas.
We can now deliver clean, sustainable energy to these farming communities by using a pebble bed modular nuclear reactor like the HTMR 100. It's extremely safe to operate. It is much cheaper and much smaller than any of the other conventional types of nuclear that we know.
Small modular pebble fuel reactors could allow farmers or other power users to become independent from government-supplied electricity. South African nuclear firm Stratic Global says its HTMR 100 reactor is relatively simple and easy to build.
We decided to develop a small modular reactor that did not need any water and could be taken to where you want the electricity, and it can have its own independent grid of 2 or 5 kilometers in diameter, or it can connect into a national grid.
South Africa was the global leader in pebble bed reactor technology, also known as PBMR, but froze development in 2010. Some South African researchers and engineers established Stratic Global and locally developed the helium gas-cooled pebble fuel reactor, the HTMR 100. South Africa was also the first to commercially manufacture the tennis ball-sized pebbles, enclosing tiny uranium granules that power pebble fuel reactors.
South Africa is an ideal country to partner with when it comes to the development of nuclear energy.
Despite the global push towards renewable energy, experts say these technologies can still not continuously power the world's electricity grids.
So that's why there is renewed interest in having nuclear power onto the grid.
Tech advisory firm Koya Capital announced a separate partnership with Stratic Global this April.
We also believe this technology is suitable for applications in Asia, Latin America, and even in traditional markets like Europe and the US, where there is demand for a medium-sized solution.
Stratic Global hopes to start building its first reactor later this year. Maurice de Klerk for VOA News, Pretoria, South Africa.
The federal government is optimistic that the proposed National Digital Economy and e-Governance Bill will transform the nation's economy and put it on the pedestal of global competitiveness. The Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Mr. Bosun Tijani, stated this during a media parley in Abuja. He believes the digital economy sector is projected to generate about $18.3 billion to the economy by 2026. Our correspondent, Sunes Nathaniel, reports.
The federal government wants to establish a legal framework for the developing and regulating of Nigeria's digital economy as part of measures to unlock the potential of the sector.
for any economy today. There's no.
According to the Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, the contributions of the information and communications technology sector to Nigeria's gross domestic product reached 7.9 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2024, contributing 14.58 to the economy. This is according to the Bureau of Statistics. This bill is expected to guide the transformation of the sector.
We believe that the bill will support the growth and transformation of Nigeria's economy through the application and the use of digital technology in all facets of life in Nigeria.
The ministry has been carrying out a lot of initiatives in the area of capacity building, in the area of digitization, in the area of trying to promote digital literacy.
The bill spans 16 parts with over 60 sections aiming to bolster digital transaction, consumer protection, and promoting technologies such as artificial intelligence and blockchains. The National Assembly is promising to give the bill the necessary support.
We recognize the importance of automation in our digital economy, and we will utilize technology to enhance productivity, reduce the cost of governance, and improve the efficiency of our revenue-generating agencies.
Hold us accountable. Whenever you see any of us, either as minister or as members of the legislature, ask us how far with this bill. Because we are giving a commitment to you. We are the one who invited you. We are the one who has said we are ready for this bill. And therefore, you must also hold us accountable to ensure that what we have promised, we deliver on that.
Although the bill has more steps to pass in Parliament, its sponsors remain confident it will significantly transform Nigeria. Sunes Nathaniel, Channels Television News.
Some residents of Nairobi's suburbs are up in arms over what they say is illegal construction of high-rise buildings in their estates, mainly by Chinese contractors. Juma Majanga reports from Nairobi.
In Nairobi's Kilimani suburbs, residents like Cherotich say are pondering their next move to stop what they say is illegal construction in their estate.
What we are suffering from now is unplanned construction. If you don't have sewage, you don't have wider roads, you don't have fire stations, you don't have enough schools, you don't have hospitals, all you're doing is just building and building and building accommodation without the requisite planning.
Kilimani is one of the areas where residents are speaking out against the construction of high-rise buildings.
A lot of the buildings that we are seeing around here do not even meet that same City Hall's development control requirements. And they're approved in City Hall. They're actually approved in City Hall. And I can say this without fear of contradiction. For donkey years, City Hall has been the citadel of corruption.
And I really call out the Chinese Property Developers Association here. They're complicit. They have understood the propensity and appetite for corruption that you find in this county, and they have exploited it to the hilt.
City government officials declined VOA's request for comment, and Chinese builders did not respond to VOA's request for a response to the claims.
Let there be competition. I think that is going to raise the Kenyan construction industry. The Kenyan expertise are going to run something. In the long run, the customers are going to benefit because there's no competition. We shall do the work, we cannot be efficient.
The Kenyan constitution requires involvement of citizens on governance decisions on issues that affect them.
Whereas the law provides very elaborately about public participation, and we have adequate legislation around that, but the practice itself is still being done as a lip service. We still have the government officers calling for public participation when they've already made a decision. So they're doing it just to tick the boxes.
Heavy rains and deadly flooding in Kenya recently are compounding problems caused by unplanned construction, says Omenya.
By the time you have those high-rise buildings, you are not likely, especially in these areas where we're looking at 1 acre development, the entire space is going to be concrete. Where does that water go?
And as the World Bank projects 70% of the global population will live in cities by 2050, experts say planning will be key for cities like Nairobi. Juma Majanga, VOA News, Nairobi.
Women in Somalia are joining the male-dominated traffic police profession as security drive in the country opens up more roles for them after a recent attack by Al-Shabaab in Mogadishu, the capital. Authorities have intensified operations by deploying more personnel and setting up checkpoints.
For the first time in years, women are among the new faces patrolling the streets of the Somali capital as traffic police officers, reflecting efforts to increase the number of women in public roles amid a security crackdown, setting up checkpoints and recruiting young women like 28-year-old Samira Abdullah to help control the city's traffic congestion.
The problems we face include narrow roads and traffic jams, and this forces us to work all day. But we were trained to open jammed streets. I am satisfied with my job because we work for our people. We, the Somali Female Traffic Police, the job is our choice. We applied for the job.
The role was previously off limits for women in the conservative Muslim nation, where they traditionally worked only behind desks in administrative jobs. According to Traffic Police Commander Muse Mohammed, Abdullah's pioneering presence has inspired more Somali women to apply.
Since we employed women, we get applications from many women who also want to join the traffic police. The employed ladies showed the importance of women working in the streets and the beauty of the streets. They work well.
While Somalia remains a conservative society with patchy rule of law, Abdullah's presence is seen as a sign of gradual gains for women's rights and roles.
I encourage Somali women to become traffic police officers and work for their people. I tell the public, work with us, and we work for you. Correct your mistakes. Most of you are good, and we urge you to correct the mistakes you are making.
Her position in the public sphere brings Abdullah a sense of recognition from the community.
The new traffic police women are very good. They are better than their male counterparts. They check licenses and observe and implement law and order.
Abdullah says each day she steps onto the bustling streets of Mogadishu, her presence is a symbol of the evolving role of women in Somali society.
A California startup says it can help decarbonize industrial manufacturing by using batteries made of clay. Instead of storing electricity, these clay batteries store heat. Matt Dibble has more in this week's episode of Log On.
Renewable energy is becoming cheaper than fossil fuels. But the clean energy transition has lagged in an area where it could help the most: manufacturing. Manufacturing requires consistent heat, in some cases for 24 hours a day.
Making stuff is the single biggest part of world energy use. And the heat used in making stuff is a quarter of all the coal, oil, and natural gas in the world.
Intermittent electricity from wind and solar becomes consistent heat in what O'Donnell's company, Rondo Energy, calls heat batteries. They contain toaster-like heaters embedded in the humblest of materials, clay bricks.
We had this breakthrough in how we could use this material that the world has used for 200 years and take 19th century materials and build the energy infrastructure for the 21st century. That's a single brick. Stores as much energy as a Tesla Model X battery pack. We stack up about 3,000 of those to make a single heat battery.
Stacks of hot bricks can heat air to over 1,000 degrees Celsius for companies making food, fuel, and more.
Replacing combustion with the wind and the sun cuts the carbon emissions involved in making biofuels in half.
Large-scale production takes place at a brick factory in Thailand, with plans underway to build the world's largest battery factory, and a deal with leading renewable energy producer EDP to provide zero-carbon industrial heat. Rondo's humble brick may be ready to shine. Matt Dibble, VOA News, Alameda, California.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. To remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joker Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.